Hi guys, this is Miss Raina. I'm here to talk to you about terrestrial biomes today, following up on the stuff that we've been doing in class. So here's the first thing that you guys need to look at. You've got some major trends here. So we're looking at temperature and precipitation to understand how biomes are formed and how those patterns determine what animals and plants there are. As far as temperature goes, it's very easy. It's hot at the equator, where the sun's rays are the most concentrated, and it's cold at the poles, where the sun's rays are the least concentrated. This happens to be about air currents, and air currents are what determine precipitation. So there's the Coriolis effect to consider. Upper hemisphere spins that way, lower hemisphere the winds spin that way, and it's because of the spin of the earth itself. And there are convection currents to consider. When the air rises, it's because it's heated up here, probably at the equator, and as it rises, it cools off, and so it lets that precipitation go, so that by the time it's pushed out of the way and it cools off some more and falls down, even though what you're getting here is very warm air, it's very dry. So here you have rainforest, lots of precipitation falling down. Here it's still really, really warm, just like it is at the rainforest, but the air is much drier. That's where you get desert. In between, that's where you get grassland. All right, so we end up with these patterns that depend largely on latitude because of these convection currents. So here at the equator, where the sun's rays are the most concentrated, it is the hottest. And so you'll see words like tropical. Tropical means hot, it doesn't mean jungle. Again, closer to the poles, you'll see words like Arctic. Between the equator and the poles, you'll see words like temperate. It just means that there are seasons there. It means that the seasons change. It's not hot all year and it's not cold all year like it is up in the extremes. But here you can definitely tell that the precipitation depends on latitude. So as that cool air is falling and warming up, you get desert. Where there's lots of rain, you get forest. Where there's a lot more evaporation, a lot less precipitation, you get desert, and the areas in between are going to be grassland. So you've got forest, you've got desert, grassland in between, same thing. Forest, desert, grassland in between. Not very much precipitation up here at all, and so sometimes you'll have like a little bit of grassland up in here too. All right, so most important factors are temperature and precipitation. The temperature is going to go hot in the equator, cold at the poles. Hot at the equator, cold at the poles. The precipitation depends almost entirely on wind currents. So lots of precipitation at the equator, about 30 degrees away from the equator in either direction, very, very little precipitation. And then because of the way the air gets pushed up again, you have what are called a temperate rainforest here. Lots more precipitation up at about 60 degrees high. So like I said, it depends on long-term patterns, not necessarily day-to-day weather. So here's kind of like a combination of winds from Coriolis forces and then the result of winds. Think of them coming up out of the page into the atmosphere and down onto the land. Those are the convection currents that create these patterns along latitude lines. Okay, so if you have different temperatures, different amounts of precipitation, you will get different kinds of plants and animals. They have to adapt to where they live. And so a biome is defined as a large area that's characterized by similar climate and soil conditions. Each biome can have lots of ecosystems. Each ecosystem can have lots of communities. So this is a pretty big level of organization there. Again, when you get away from the equator, you're getting colder. So these will be tropical areas, these will be temperate or deciduous areas, and these will be Arctic or cold areas. The rest of it depends entirely on precipitation. So this is the big picture to keep in mind. Where you have lots of precipitation, you have forest. Where you have very little precipitation compared to evaporation, you have desert. Everything in the middle is grassland. So let's see how that fits together. Desert evaporation is greater than the precipitation. Desert biomes have really interesting plants and animals because they have to have some pretty extreme adaptations. Forest is the opposite. That's where you have lots of precipitation, and so you have lots of water greedy trees, whether it's a cold area like in the Arctic, or a place with seasons like in the US and in Europe, or the rainforest like at the equator. Taiga is an example of a cold desert. Um, it's a evergreen or a coniferous forest. That can be another example of a colder climate desert. There's a tropical rainforest. Remember, tropical doesn't mean jungle, it means hot, because you can have a tropical desert as well. Temperate rainforest is where you have lots and lots of precipitation, but it's a much higher latitude where you actually have seasons. In the US, this is Seattle. Lots and lots and lots of rain can support big water greedy trees, but it's not hot all year. Temperate deciduous forest means that the leaves are changing color because we have actual seasons. It's big parts of the United States and Europe. Grassland is us. This is where we live. The rainfall is not dependable. Fires are common, just like the grass fire we had a few years ago, but it's like Goldilocks. Not too much rain, not too little. So we end up with a place that's really great for grazing animals, and those of you that are in ranching families or know somebody who's a rancher know all about that. We also have in grasslands the best, most beautifully developed soil. So this is the best for farming and for agriculture. These are kinds of places that form bread baskets of the United States and of Europe because you can grow lots of grain. The savanna is tropical, so like I said, it doesn't mean jungle. Tropical means hot. This is where you see all those amazing giraffes and zebras and really neat kinds of animals. Chaparral means temperate grassland. Temperate means there are seasons. There is a real winter, there is a real summer. This is where you have lots and lots of farming, but the grasslands are delicate. You take away the grass, the soil doesn't get a chance to develop, and it dies. The tundra, cold grassland. Just a very small percentage of the Earth's land. Not a lot of trees because remember, there's not a lot of precipitation that can actually sink down into the soil. They have a brief summer, but that summer is a really beautiful summer. All right, so that's it. When we're talking about biomes, please be prepared tomorrow to do your own discussion in front of the class about the biome that you're researching. Thank you very much.